Welcome again, second night in a row for council. And tonight's meeting is a special meeting and it is a budget workshop, but we're going to start tonight's meeting with an executive session that has been requested. And this executive session goes along with the following: RCW 42.30.1101I to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency matters relating to agency enforcement actions, or to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency litigation or potential litigation to which the agency, the governing body, or a member acting in an official capacity is or is likely to become a party when public knowledge regarding the discussion is likely to result in an adverse legal or financial consequence to the agency. And we're asking for 15 minutes with no action expected.
Jeff, I got quality time with your employees and they were
Live stream
wonderful.
is on. Recording is on.
All right, thank you. We're back in open session, out of executive session, and there was no action. And council, I did not mention, Councilor Vasquez is absent today. She did inform us last night that she would be unavailable for this evening. And so is there any objection to giving her an excused absence this evening?
No objection.
All right, Councilor Vasquez is excused. Thank you for that.
But I do think it needs to be marked that Counselor Hart was late. It's happening a lot.
And make a note of that. And we will, as council, ask Counselor Hart to try to be a little more punctual. We know sometimes things get in the way, but all right, active agenda. Financial review the city's 2025 budget position. Mr. City Manager.
I will turn this over to our finance director, Monica Hofstetter.
Miss Hofstetter, sorry.
You guys have a handout of the current position of the 2025 totals. As we go through tonight, I'm going to kind of explain where we're at with 2025, and then also that I will be needing to revise the 2025 budget and have it amended before the end of the year.
Thank you.
Simply because there's just a lot of line items that were left blank and they can't be blank.
Yeah.
So.
No, and I thank you for bringing that up, because I think we all need to understand that all of those blanks need to be filled in, and then we have to have an appropriate budget by the end of the year, and that will require a budget amendment of some sort. So
Right. There's
maybe
like
more than
entire
one.
departments that are zero, like
Yeah.
Parks and Rec, and we have people that go out and mow the lawns, and so there's people that are getting allocated to those line items, but the whole entire department's zero for some reason. And there's quite a few things that have been zero. I think the fire department has quite a few zero line items, and EMS, and those need to, it's just moving things within the fund to try and make them correct.
But Monica, doesn't there have to be changes in the budget? Budget adjustments, because we are in the middle of, we have a city manager that's out, we have a city manager that's in, and those were not budgeted in the 2025 budget. And so those budget adjustments need to be made.
Yeah, that's what I plan on doing before the
Yeah.
end of the year.
Okay.
Yep.
I appreciate that.
Right.
Does anybody have any questions about the?
I think go ahead and start. I think we probably got questions, but it'll help us to have a little bit more meat.
Okay. Jackie's probably going to start the slideshow. So kind of the intention tonight is you're going to hear a lot of repeat of last year. I'm going to be honest with you. There's going to be a lot of things repeated. I'm going to go over some fund accounts, how the fund accounts work, building a budget, the 26 projected revenues, cost allocations, and then as well I'll go into kind of where I'm at in the 26 budget thus far.
Where are we, Monica, on the 2024 budget?
That will be discussed too.
Okay. Be still my heart.
With the first slide, second slide, it kind of discusses here what the different funds are. So these are examples of our fund accounts. You have the general fund, special revenue funds, capital projects, enterprise funds. So the general fund is what's going to be the core of the city. This is your HR, your administration, finance, police, fire, parks and rec, and the legislation and anything that's just withheld within the city. Then you have your capital projects that are for city funds within the city, but also you have your enterprise funds. The enterprise funds should be able to withstand themselves, meaning that they make revenue, so they should be able to sustain themselves within their own fund. And then those enterprise funds also have a capital attached to them for the capital projects for those enterprise funds. And then you'll have some special revenues like the lodging tax revenues, and those are things that are going to be outside of the general fund, and they usually have an RCW attached to them specifically stating how you can spend any kind of revenues within those funds and expense within those funds. And then I also put a little excerpt in there that says that every government or any government should establish and maintain funds required by law and a sound in financial administration, and only the minimum number of funds consistent with legal and operating requirements should be established. Using numerous funds results in inflexibility, undue complexity, and insufficient financial administration. So meaning that it's the best practice to go by your BAR's accounts, and if you have any funds, then you should stay within what the BAR's recommendations are.
Yes, Monica, one of the things that I have been advocating for since I've been on council is just to educate council on REIT 1 and REIT 2. Because we are not very educated on that. I don't think
And I can
people,
send some information. They actually recently changed some of the information for
Mhm.
Route 1 and Route 2 and how you can. It's kind of funny because you can kind of combine them now. They
Mhm.
used to have a little more strict rules and
They did, yeah.
so I can definitely send
Yeah.
out some.
I think that's really important to us because as we go through this, REIT 1 and REIT 2, it's kind of abstract
Mhm.
and we need to know what our limitations are on that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I'm just curious, as long as we're talking about it, isn't that have to do with real estate tax?
Yes?
Yeah.
REIT?
Yep. That's
Okay, I
right.
just wanted to make that clear because sometimes the acronyms,
I
you
know.
know.
But it's the usage of it that,
Tim loves
Yeah.
acronyms. Ask him.
Sure.
We have an acronym jar in City Hall.
yeah, alphabet soup.
Okay, next slide.
That's
Okay,
lovely.
so how I
Oh, this is my question, isn't it?
get a budget without having a beginning balance. So what I did was, I went back all the way to 2022 and I reconciled ending balances to beginning balances for every single fund account, for all of those years. And it was quite a task.
Mhm.
It was a fun weekend. So, most of them reconciled correctly. There was a couple that weren't reconciling, from the ending balance to the beginning balance in a couple of the years, but it was not amounts that were substantial. It was like $500 or $502. So it wasn't anything substantial, and it might have just been, an error in the transfer, and I'm not really sure what it was. But when I reconciled it, I brought it all the way through to the end of what 2024 states right now. Now, saying that, the fund account, within the fund account, line items can move around. So every fund account has its pot, and it's like budgeting for a shopping list. So you're budgeting for dairy, meats, and produce. Well, when you get to the store, you decide, well, I actually have enough meat, so I'm going to move some of my meat money down into my produce money.
Hamburgers too
Same
expensive
yeah.
today.
So it's kind of the same concept where you can move that around as long as it's only on that shopping list for groceries. Now, if I have a clothing allowance, that's a different list and that's a different fund. And if you ask my husband, it's limited. So he's going to tell me you can only buy a blouse, not shoes. And that's kind of how our fund accounts work as well. So when I have to adjust things within 2024, as long as it's staying in that balanced account within its fund, we're looking okay. So as I went through these fund accounts and I did the reconciliation, I'm doing it with the belief that what's in that fund is the beginning and ending balances within those funds. So if we have to move things, that's when it's going to take a little more amending. And it's not a, difficult task just to amend these things. So I did that all the way to 25. I got our beginning balances for what I believe they should be for 25, and then projected what we've spent thus far, and then got an ending balance for 25 to be able to start a new balance for 26. And that's how I became a starting point for us.
Mhm.
And that was the first sheet that you provided,
Um,
budget position.
No, that's going to be on the very last
Okay.
sheet that you'll see. There's beginning balances, and that'll be the last thing we go over. So that's kind of how I got to the point of we have a beginning balance, and now we can kind of take that beginning balance and create the budget from there. Because it's really kind of difficult to create a budget if you don't know what's coming in
Yeah.
from the year prior. On the next slide.
Well, I just have a question.
Uh-huh.
How are we gonna do, I mean, how is this gonna look with the auditors? What are the auditors gonna say? That we don't have any actuals from, going forward, so.
We're going to get there.
Okay, again, okay. Hold on, Monica, I'll hold on.
So the next slide is Jackie.
It's a team effort.
Yes. So it's a team effort. So how do you build a budget? The very first thing you do is you take the goals of the elected officials. The community votes the elected officials in because of their vision. And so you have to hear out what the council's goals are first. And then having your input and putting the direction from the council, you then go to your department heads and work with them to itemize what it is their needs are, that it's going to be within the goal of the elected officials. And then the last piece is putting it all together and putting that data into a story and saying, this is what we're doing for the city of Sunnyside. And so that's how it kind of all comes together, is it really takes everybody to work together to be able to build a budget. Next. So on the MSRC, they have a calculator that you can use, and you can kind of see, like, these are our state shared revenues. So you can just put in City of Sunnyside and hit enter, and it pops up what the projections and estimated distributions would be for these line items. This is a great tool to kind of use as a reconciliation to what we have in our system right now. I would say the overall amounts look about right. I think the allocations, maybe when they're coming in, aren't getting allocated into the correct line items. So again, this is just one of those things where things aren't getting distributed into the right line item, but we are getting the revenue. So I just wanted to share this because it's sometimes a good tool to use, because the MSRC has great tools on projections as to where things are. Next slide.
I got one more question.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna drive you crazy. How are the projections on these? Are they going up? They're going down? I had a lot to do with liquor profits and liquor excise because I had a contract liquor store for 30 years.
Mhm.
And I know with the change in how it was sold and everything else, what have our, and they're huge amounts along with the gas tax.
Mhm.
How have those trended? Do you know?
It will show you on the next page.
Okay.
So if you look at the trends and like the sales tax right now, for instance, you can see that 23 was a really good year, and it was a lot from coming out of COVID, and people
Mhm.
were breaking free and being happy. So
Mhm.
spending was out there and happening. And then in 24, a little more of reality started hitting us, and we were like, okay, maybe we can't spend all of our money. The projections right now is we're going to trend a little more with 24, and possibly if we dipped, it should not, I should say dipped much more. So we should be pretty steady for the years of 25 and 26 in the revenues. Right now, when I'm looking at 25, I can see that the projection might be a little bit high of what was budgeted, but it looks like it'll probably trend around what 24 looks like.
I think 24 looks fairly reasonable. 2023, which we said was a big jump, but 2024 then adjusted back down.
Right.
The real bump was in, 2020, 2019, but it's still, I mean, it's holding its own.
Yeah. I don't think that it will drop a whole bunch. I
No.
think that if it drops slightly, it's possible. I think just with inflation and people getting a little bit nervous about where the economy is, it happens. But the trends right now are not showing that it should be in a dive. It's kind of like doing this weird little
Mhm.
curve where it's not really sure what it's going to do. So it's just one of those things a lot of economists are keeping an eye on.
So if I can, I was looking at the first quarter for this year,
Mhm.
and it looks like we're down like 2% just for the first.
Right,
About-
to what was budgeted, yeah. The budget, I think, was slightly high. I like to be really conservative with my numbers, so I think the budget was maybe a little bit high. And it's kind of hard because normally you would look at the past 5 years and you would kind of project, but having those COVID years in there is kind of tricky. And then coming out of COVID and having a false jump. So it's really, you just really have to be conservative in your numbers and where you actually would land. So on the next slide, we have the general fund revenues, and this is where our revenues come from. In our general fund revenues, you have your taxes, your license and permits, your intergovernment, which is like grants, criminal justice fines, liquor control board. Those are the ones that you saw in that first slide of kind of those cost items. Also, we have our charges for goods and services, which is municipal court, fees that happen like funeral processions, DNA, the fire department sprinkler system reviews. Those kind of things are the charges for goods and services. We have fines and penalties. And then also we have interest and other earnings. The other earnings are things like our rentals and leases with city property, which would be the pool, the pavilion, the community center, those kinds of areas would be our rentals. We have donations and settlements also that go into that pot.
One more question.
Uh-huh.
It's charges for goods and services, municipal court and fees for services. We just had a presentation by the court that said that we were possibly bringing in 400,000.
I will say that I just actually did a reconciliation of the court's revenue. And that's something that hadn't been done, and that the billing actually has been done a little incorrectly. And we have not been collecting as much as we should. So we will be charging them a reconciliation amount for them to catch up to what they should be on this.
Yeah, because if our total for goods and services, municipal court and fees for service, 565,000,
Mhm.
we're not going to bring in 400,000 from Toppenish.
It wouldn't be 400,000.
Right, correct.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So, I asked at the time we did this for a reconciliation on that. Is that in the works?
I just did it.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
They're behind.
Okay,
So they actually owe us more money than we've collected.
okay, thank you. That's,
And it actually, it is, the billing and the way the billing was getting done was off of a budget, not off of the actuals.
okay.
And so that's where the issue was, is that the team hadn't been trained on how to actually put that together. And they've always just been provided a worksheet with a budgeted amount. And the contract states that they're supposed to be paying the operating costs, and that operating cost is what's an actual. So now they've been taught how to actually create those worksheets and make the actual amounts so they can start billing the proper amount.
Because it has to be operating costs, not as a revenue builder.
Correct,
Mhm.
correct.
Counselor Hart.
I'm just thinking that the $4,000 that she was talking about was an estimate of what was going to be coming in.
400,000.
Yeah. I think in total,
That's what she had estimated.
Yeah.
The number 4.
Yeah, but, and
That wasn't what had been already received. That's what
correct.
her estimate was.
Yes,
if I recall
correct.
correctly.
Yeah. And actually, I'm going to be honest, I think that's kind of low. I think that we, with our operating costs, it's a little bit more.
Is that because of charging Toppenish?
Well, it's the Toppenish portion that we have not been billing correctly that we're owed. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. And then there is a portion in there that you're not seeing, and there it's $627,400 that's received from jail services. It's not really shown in the revenue. But that's coming in through housing other inmates. That amount was $627,400.
And that was from our jail contracts.
For
Yes,
housing inmates.
correct.
How are we doing on the having that group come in that's doing the jail, selling things to the prisoners, commissary? Yeah, thank you. How are we doing on that?
We just recently received our, I think they just started getting their checks. They're very small.
They're very small.
It's not a,
Okay.
Not truly a moneymaker.
no, no, no.
It's a service more than anything.
Yeah, the first check just came in and it was just over 2,000, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think that was for the first month.
And how is that doing, Chief, on reducing cost of labor versus income from the whole thing?
Significantly. So we used to have one officer basically dedicated to run the commissary because we had to, and then a second officer would have to go in and audit to make sure that nothing was missing and that kind of stuff. And right now they're distributing the commissary stuff in about 30 minutes.
So are we seeing a cost savings that's
Huge cost savings
significant
in
enough?
staff. Yes.
Okay, that was my concern, so.
And I don't know, I couldn't tell you what the numbers were before to tell you if that 2,000, that might have been what we were making before. I don't know.
Okay,
I'm actually trying to look for it right now, but
okay, so are we gonna have a report on that in the near future?
maybe in about 10 minutes.
Okay, I love it. It's
on the next page.
It's on the next page, Teresa.
Basically, the whole thing with the commissary really didn't, the amount of what was going out in sales was really the major portion of that was figuring out a way to do budget and the salary for the people who were working the commissary. Is that correct? It would have been more personal costs than actual product.
I can't tell you because I need to find out what we were making before,
Yeah.
but there is a huge savings in staff time, yes.
Thank you for clarifying that.
And that's why the report, because we don't know yet.
Where are we at now?
All right, if we want to go to the next slide, so revenue versus expenses. This is where we're going to go into the enterprise funds. Currently, the numbers estimated beginning balance overall in our revenues is $17,614,210 with an expense projected to be $15,903,128. So the total transfer out is $1,656,455 to our enterprise funds, currently leaving us a balance of $54,637 in reserves for any unexpected costs.
Ooh,
So normally you want to see a general fund of having no less than 60 days in reserves. And the reason why is because you get quarterly payments from things. So that's why you want to have that quarterly revenue being able to come in.
property tax, sales tax.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff, yeah.
And then For the enterprise funds, it's 45 days because they're supposed to be a self-generating revenue. So it's just month to month being able for them to be able to generate their own income. So you should at least have 45 days, just over a month worth of reserves for them to keep going. And then you have to consider all your debt payments at the same time. So if you're having to pay your debts and you don't have those reserves, then you're kind of in a situation where you're going to have to,
Leverage.
yeah. So
So Monica, is it typical for the general fund to subsidize the enterprise funds?
it shouldn't. So that's where we're having the problem. So the problem is the reason why the general fund is having such an issue and the reason why we're not able to open up the community center and the pool and we're having to cut and cut and cut is because these enterprise funds are not sustaining themselves. Now, that's not even, these are just operating funds. That's not even including any capital that we would have to spend on any of these projects and the needs for building our infrastructure.
Just to break even amount, right?
Yeah. So for the general fund to be subsidizing $1.6 million into these enterprise funds is quite a bit.
But don't, excuse
Go ahead,
me.
Neil.
Yeah.
But don't you normally see that happening though in your general fund? Because that
Mm-mm.
general fund is where
No.
everything comes out.
No.
No,
Mm-mm.
no, enterprise funds 100% should be sustaining themselves.
Isn't it by law, basically RCW? Isn't there something that says enterprise funds have to be self-sustaining?
No, that you can have your general fund assist your it would be really bad if it was backwards. So
Yes.
you can because there's sometimes capital costs. I've seen some cities to where if you're in a situation where you have a capital cost in an emergency and the general fund is funding it, then they would be paying back the general fund, the funds. That's quite a bit to be subsidizing.
Yes.
I well, when we get further in, it'll kind of explain some of the needs that we're going to need to be able to help like cushion some of these areas. Right now, so we have a contingency fund and the contingency fund was created. It's called the Rainy Day Fund. And it was created to be able to help with these budgetary shortfalls. The problem is right now there's only $13,000 in it.
Crazy.
And that's not enough to pay a bill.
I know
So-
when I was on council before with Carol Stone, and I love Carol Stone, we had $2 million in there. We've got $13,000. That's not one city manager emergency fund. $13,000. That is so low on the scale of what can happen. I mean, look at what's going on with the sewer and all that kind of stuff. $13,000 is not acceptable.
Yeah. On the next slide. So, right now, the projected enterprise operating funds, you have your EMS, and your EMS is actually kind of breaking even right now. And
Dollar for dollar. That's kind of crazy.
well, it's breaking even because, and it's also putting some of its funds into its capital account, but, you really don't want your EMS to fall short. I can tell you that. So that's one of those funds that it really needs to be able to sustain itself because the medical equipment is spendy.
Mhm.
So when we're going to have to purchase some of those things, those are the budgetary items I'm talking about. Like when we need that capital planning budget really needs to be at least 5 years out to be able to project where we're going to need to spend those big dollars. The water revenue is actually doing pretty good. So, it's able to sustain itself and, my suggestion is a percentage of those reserves needs to be put into a capital fund account for those water, expenses that are unforeseen in the future.
Mhm.
The sewer currently is deficient by $947,000. The sewer is the largest one that's taking up, the sum of that money that's getting transferred out of the, general fund. The sewer, to my understanding, the way it's being, billed out could probably use a revisement. It's, being billed kind of where they're zeroing out and they're doing a budgetary thing where I think that Jim and I have kind of discussed some ideas and that's more his avenue. So mine's the numbers, his is figuring out how to fix
Policy.
the sewer systems. And then the garbage fund, I'm currently doing a cost allocation because we're actually paying $170,000. And this is not our company. This is a company that we are right now using our administrative staff to fund these things. So I'm going to be going through their ILA and probably bringing forward something to remedy this. This one should be one of the easier ones to remedy. It's a simple, we either have them negotiate rates with us, or they can administer their own administration to build these things, because costing the city $170,000 a year is,
Yes.
we could use that for something else.
Well, it almost appears as gifting of public funds because this company is making that $170,000 and we are subsidizing that $170,000.
Sorry.
I don't know that that's quite right, because it seems to me that like we had changed some things as far as like when people were overfilling their dumpsters, they were getting an extra bill. That was, so.
Are they getting that?
They're not anymore. So what happens?
Why does that, why did that?
They're given an
happen?
extra bin
Yep.
and charged for a second bin.
But okay,
So that's how we've remedied that in the past, because otherwise people will just continue to pay the higher bill and they've got garbage stashed all around their bin. So now we give them a second bin or a larger bin, depending on the situation.
Yeah, and they're charged,
And then they get charged for
but
that.
they get charged for the extra bin, which is, should kind of offset that to some degree, I would think.
I think part of it also is that it wasn't realized that there's $1,800 a month in fuel fees that they're charging the city.
Well, that could be a renegotiation.
That could.
Yeah. Where there's quite a large fuel cost that we're getting, a fee that we're getting charged.
We'll see that, all those little bit pockets.
Yeah. So that was one of the things that we discovered in doing this process that's why we want to renegotiate or maybe take a look at the ILA and see, where we could.
Well,
come
Yakima
up with
Waste
some better
has
costs.
been very good partners over the
Mhm.
years. And so I think there is the opportunity to renegotiate. I know that they want to, Julia, did you have something to say?
Go ahead, Counselor Heineke,
Okay.
you've got the floor.
Okay.
All right.
I know that over the years, they've been a very good ally to us. I know that we've gone out and looked for other companies. Over the time, they've been very responsive to the city. I think there's times when they could be more responsive to the customers because I've had an issue. But I do think that that there is the opportunity to renegotiate this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'll be something we can look at. And then last is the stormwater. Right now it's 209,445. That's being supplemented by general fund, and Jim knows the background on how the stormwater started getting billed differently and
Right. So in 2008, recall, for those that were here, we had at the time what we call our fixed ERU price, right? And I'm just going to say it was $6, $6 here, and the $6 represented a 12,000 square foot residential lot in the city of Sunnyside. And so what we were charging was $6 per lot. And then if you had a lot that was 120,000 square feet, commercial, industrial, you got charged 10 times that amount, right? So you got charged $60 a month because your lot's 10 times a normal size residential lot. Well, the city manager at the time decided that the empty spaces,
Pastures.
their lots, like where Borton's building the new apartment complex, all that area there around Walmart, that we would put the burden on those folks to pay the stormwater fees, by raising them about $40,000 for a lot that size.
Mhm.
And his goal was to get them to pay the stormwater fee, but really to get them to sell the land.
Which
And
this is not
so it
government.
blew apart the entire stormwater model, and we've been playing catch up ever since. So since that time, I think, council really reared back. I mean, it was, it was horrific. We had people coming, out of the woodwork complaining about this, and it really, and we were just in our infancy of getting this project going, this stormwater project, which is, we're under mandate from the state to have a stormwater program, and it's got to be funded somehow. And it really just blew the whole thing apart. And so now we're into a point where we're in deficit spending. We are doing our work that's required by our permit, but it's not keeping up with our cost.
And last year we tried to remedy some of this too. That came up in conversation because I know I was getting calls from people, for example, nonprofits, churches and that sort of thing, complaining about what it was going to be to pay their stormwater bill off of the parking lots and that sort of thing. And so I think council backed down on some of that stuff and we didn't push forward, but it's a problem that's rearing its head. We are going to have to do something, but I don't think anybody's going to be happy with it. Councilor Hancock.
Okay, Jim, this is where I want to go on this. And, whether I have council's blessing or not, I'm just going to tell you because I was there then. And it caused us to undo a city manager because he was not listening to council. And council's directive, council listened to him when he put up these fees. And then he would when council realized what these fees were doing, he would not take it back. And council wanted him to, and he did not do it. And we were having churches that their property taxes went up $5,000 in 1 year. And it wasn't because of the impervious surface, which would have been stormwater. The pastures, people with 2 acres of pastures were getting $2,000 increases in their property taxes. And pastures are stormwater havens that should not have been charged. So Jim, if we're going to do this, I remember that at the time, the mandates were outfalls, infalls, impervious surface. And I want to make sure as we go forward that we're recognizing those infalls, outfalls, and impervious surfaces, because at the time, and things have changed, so I don't know, and that's where I'm looking to you. At the time, basically, our only expenses were to sweep the streets so many times a year. Now they've changed the infalls, outfalls, and all that kind of stuff. So I think council needs to know exactly what's going on here if we're going to, say we're jumping from 293,000 to 502,000. Could be completely justifiable, but I need to see it.
Right.
Yep.
And I will say, so on a typical residential lot, and there was when this all started, and I don't want to digress into a technical conversation here, but it could have gone off the rails real quick, right? There was impervious surface, right? We take a Walmart, which is nearly 100% impervious surface. Well, we weren't charging the Walmarts the 100% impervious surface. We were charging them the residential impervious surface. So for every residential lot that's 12,000 square feet, approximately 5,000 of that is impervious surface. So 77,000 square feet was open space, right? And so that's the standard that we were trying to apply. And then we were trying to apply credits to folks that already had stormwater systems on site, built on site, right? And to give those folks a credit back off of their bill for doing that. But anyway, that's kind of getting deep into the woods a bit. But again, we should be cleaning our catch basins. We should be cleaning our storm drain systems and sweeping our streets. I think we have 2 full-time people that do this. And I think part of the big cost on here may be the equipment that they have, the cost of the street sweeper and the Vector truck to do this type of work. But
This goes back to justifying the fees.
Right.
And if we can justify it, then that's what it is. But, at the time, it wasn't justified. And I just think as we go through the budget process, not tonight or anything else, that we make sure that any fees we're adding are what it is costing the city. And I believe it is, but I need to be able to explain that, so.
Proceed.
Okay.
Just,
Okay.
just as a note, looking back at what was budgeted in 25 for the, say, the stormwater, the revenues and the expenses that were projected were somewhere in the neighborhood of 845,627.81, which was, in and out, same number. And it looks like it's sort of the same way right now, according to the paper you gave us tonight. The same amount of money is going in and going out. So there's a 71% of that is being spent. So you still have some left. But it sounds like that's still working properly.
Mhm.
Well, I think Counselor Hart, you have to look at it too. The amount budgeted versus the amount received, that's the 71%. We received 71% of what was budgeted.
Right.
And we spent 57% of what's been
Right.
budgeted.
Yeah. So that's kind of, for this
Right.
time of the year, that should be right for the budgeting. What was used and what was not, considering the different things that we've done with the storm.
And I agree with you, Counselor Hart, except I don't know the timeline for what is budgeted when we're doing the stormwater stuff. So that would weigh in when we're actually doing the stormwater stuff and, where we are in budget.
Certainly.
Yep.
Carry on.
But I think
All right.
I was kind of look at that too.
So where we were and where we can go. And
Mhm.
this is kind of where we're going to take a look at how do we get to a place of security, understanding both the finance and the budget, and then preventing a repeat of yesterday.
Amen.
And the next slide. So right now, there needs to be some policies and procedures in place. And when I say that, I mean that like internally with some controls. There's needs to be several financial policies created right now that would account for transparency and accountability within the finance team. Some of those things, and one of the things I'm going to be getting is in January, we're going to begin a procurement process with POs, meaning that we'll have a dedicated employee. And if somebody wants to do ordering, they have to go through that person. Because when I came in, it's it's kind of a free for all. And I hate to use that term, but it's kind of a free for all. Every single person that is allowed to spend has a Amazon account or Amazon login with an account, and they order, and then they take their sheet of paper and go, here, sign this. I bought
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
And it's not, there's no protocols in place that stop people. It's when the HR department, when I showed up, was 16,000% over budget. That's huge.
16,000%?
16,000% over budget. And so it's important to look at every single department and hold people accountable and have controls in place to where we're not allowing people to just spend and not say you can't just spend money like that.
Mhm.
Also, cost allocations need to be done properly. When I went to this recent conference, I actually was able to sit down with our local state auditors that work in this area, and they were able to go over some of the things that specifically were needed in Sunnyside, and that the cost allocations were not getting done properly, and that they needed to have the formulas that can justify a cost allocation be put to them. I've been working on those. It's a lengthy process. So I'm a little more than halfway done. So you're going to see right now the budget that I've created is a working budget. The numbers should be very close to where they're going to end. Also the investment distributions. So the allocations for our investments, that's something I'll be covering in this in our next meeting, is the distributions for where our investment funds are going and what accounts they're falling into and how they're being spent, that there needs to be a policy with that as well. Right now, looking back in history, those allocations were pretty consistent. And then I think around 2023, they changed. And then in the middle of 23, they changed again. And then at the beginning of 24, they changed. And then at the end of 24, they changed again. And there's no notes or rhyme or reason as to why they're getting distributed to whatever funds they're getting distributed to. A huge chunk is going to our garbage and our investment funds. And we don't own the garbage company,
No.
so I don't know why our investment funds would be put towards the garbage. So that's where it was really confusing. Another thing that I did was I actually spoke with a CPA firm. And it was kind of one of the things that I had spoke with the state auditors about. So we did have the Morlet Enterprises, and I know that it was asked that I reach out to him. I did not get a response, so I was unable to get anything further on that. As for Springbrook, they're not accountants, they're just part of our accounting software program, and they just kind of helped clean up the credit card portion as best they could in reconciling that part of the banking. That being said, 24 is still completely undone because I'm trying to fix 25 and 24 is sitting there and it literally needs a lot of work. And when I say that, every line item has to be gone through because I don't have the grants separated. I don't have our subscription software separated. I don't have our leases separated. And these are all line items that you have to independently of one another report to the state auditor. So my suggestion would be hiring an actual CPA firm that can come in and not only clean up 24, but certify the numbers and close the 2024 with the annual report, and then looking for possible improvements in the financial data. The reason why I say it's best to have a third party is because I wasn't here for that history, and I wouldn't want to independently go in and have an opinion of what was going on. I would be more comfortable with an actual firm going in and looking at it and being able to present to the board what their findings were.
Counselor Hancock.
Would we then potentially, if we brought somebody in to do that, the auditors are going to come in sometime soon. I assume because they were going to come in this summer, and obviously that hasn't happened. So I'm expecting them at any time. Would having an independent firm in here help us with avoiding penalties and all that kind of stuff?
Yes, as far as getting them accurate books. It will also help, I think, the overall view of the city. I think not having accurate data and just kind of leaving it out there is not a good idea. The state auditors said you pretty much have two choices. You can have people fix it and get the real numbers of what it should be, or you can scrap all of 24 and try to start over in 25 and say, we just don't have financial data and we're just going to go from here forward.
But we paid for a firm to come in here and do 2024, correct?
There was a gentleman that was supposed to be reconciling the accounts as far as I know when I arrived.
Was anything done?
No,
He
Nothing
here
was
for
balanced.
9 months, 8 months? That's a,
And that's the question we have. What actually did that individual do while in the employ of the city? I know they were here as a subcontractor or something along those lines.
Mhm.
And the expectation was that they would help reconcile 2024. That was what we were informed was happening. So then, so now all of us have a question. What did this person do?
That's what I reached out to him to ask if he could come and actually speak to you guys on that matter, and I haven't got a response. When I came in July, I started on a Tuesday and met him on a Thursday and saw what he was doing and expressed my concerns at that point. And it was within, I think, 3 weeks that I requested that he stop doing what he was doing and asked him to go no further because I didn't feel like there was actually work being done. And at that point, I was able to get in and really start looking at all the stuff. Nothing had been balanced. So I'm not really, there was when you reconcile, everything has to balance to zero is what you want. You want both sides to equal zero when you subtract them from one another. And none of it was. There was.
Yeah, because I had seen him at the city hall and I asked him, so how far along are we? He'd say, well, we're up to March. I'm all the way up into May now. I'm into July. So I'm getting these regular reports. I'm thinking, okay, we've got these accounts now balanced. We're getting caught up. We're going to be able to close out 24 like we want to. And now you're saying that he didn't do a thing. So that's
None of it
that's
was.
worrisome.
I don't know that, I think he was trying to balance stuff, but there was no possible way for him to have balanced all the way to July with missing information. And I think this was said last year as well. Part of the reason why I believe there's missing information is because at one point they had went to the accrual accounting and came back and decided they weren't going to do that. And I don't know that all the information
Got moved over.
got moved correctly. I think there's missing pieces and I'm not sure what it is. And that's kind of the reason why it would be nice to have a firm confirm that that's the only reason why the information's not all there.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
What's the cost for the CPA to come in and?
I'm going to get that information. I was hoping to have it before today. I don't have it. And if you would like, I can get information from several firms so that we can actually vet some people and I can have the finance committee help with that.
Well, we have a contract to make sure that this is done. I mean, look at where we're at. And we thought the last guy was fixing it. We were told it was reconciled up until such and such time, and there's been no reconciliation.
Well, and I think it's even more so than that, to be honest, Counselor. It's like a year ago, we had somebody who was
Yeah,
gonna save the world.
I know.
And then she left and we brought somebody else in who was also absolutely top of the list. Meanwhile, we've got this other guy coming in who's supposedly getting us all caught up for 24.
And
Now it
here we
turns out
still are.
not a one of the three has made a significant improvement to things, which is, I mean, we're still here where we were last year.
Exactly.
And that's what's concerning me right now. Counselor Hancock.
And this is where, as council, and I think Monica will back me up on this, the auditors are not our enemies. The auditors are our friends. The auditors will help us. The auditors are going to be kind to us. They're going to hold us accountable, but the auditors are not our enemies. And we need to rely on these auditors and let Monica go forward with this and work with the auditors and get this done. Because I want to bring in somebody that's going to help you. And I think that's very important. The cost is going to be an issue because, you know, here we sit, I don't know what we spent on Marlette, but it was 40,000.
I don't know
Mhm.
what the total was.
Yeah.
I don't know what his background is or his company. I'm going to be honest. I don't have a W-9. I don't have any backup of what his company is.
You know, I think he has a good reputation, so I'm not putting him down. I'm just saying we're in a situation where you need help.
I can say that one single person would not be able to
Mm-mm.
fix the whole thing. That's
Mm-mm.
why I want a CPA firm
Mhm.
that can actually
Mhm.
work as a team to do it.
Mhm.
It's going to take a team to do it and they would be able to do it much quicker. If I was to try and work on this, I'm going to be honest, I wouldn't be able to get done with 24 and 25 until I was in the middle of the year 26.
Yeah.
Because getting all of those things completely done, it's going to take quite a bit of
Well,
work.
doing budget and your daily duties and everything else, there's no way you can handle all that.
I think it would be important to counsel that the CPA firm be somebody we can check their bona fides and they're reputable, we know who they are. I think that would be important to us. So if you were to bring forth 2 or 3 applicants, 2 or 3 possibilities that we can look at, we can examine their reputation, see what kind of experience they'd have. I think that would make us feel better because last year we were relying on the word of the city manager. Okay, I've hired this person. I remember one time I have 1,000% confidence in this individual. Well, that didn't pan out.
And I remember the,
Now I have
unicorn
confidence in
reference.
this one. And so we'd really like to be able to do our investigation on this as council members to take a look at it, take this seriously and make sure that we're resolving our budget issues, getting caught up and being able to give full disclosure to the citizens and say, okay, yeah, 24 was a mess. And we all knew that. We can go back and remember 24 and remember it was an absolutely crazy year and a lot of things went wrong.
Yeah.
But,
Say we never want to go there again.
but.
I want to say I
it's-
wasn't there.
it takes a lot of time to repair this, but I think it's doable. And I think we owe the community the open books to be able to say, this is what actually happened. You know, there's no criminal activity that we can find, hopefully. And I mean, nobody's been able to tell me so far that there's been any criminal activity. But to be able to just lay it out there and say, this is where we are. This has all been verified by the auditors, verified by an independent CPA firm, verified by our finance director, verified by council. And so it put the minds of the community at ease. I think that's important.
And until we're there, Dean, until we know what happened in 2024, we don't know what happens with the swimming pool and the community center and maybe even our employees. I mean, we can kind of get an idea, but we don't know. And I think we owe it to our employees and everybody else to come up with real figures for the future.
I can say that the revenue is what I guess the saving grace here is that this is a cash base.
Mm-hmm.
But being a cash based accounting, the revenue is the revenue. The
Mhm.
expenses are the expenses. I would say if there's things missing, it would probably be that it was just not input into the accounting system. It is in the bank, the revenue, and then all the expenses you can account for on your credit card statements and on your bank statements. So those things, if they're, if I just took those numbers alone, I would be able to say, okay, here's where it is. You just take all your expenses and all your revenues and you would get a total sum. So that balance you can get pretty easily. But as far as like the ins and out of what things were spent on, that's the portions that I don't know.
Yeah, Councilor Hart.
So that's where I believe your cost allocation is really going to come in. and
Yeah.
Quite a lot, because what you're talking about here is making sure that the cost allocations are like to like and to department.
Yeah.
I think your idea about taking and making sure that there's purchase orders, actual purchase orders, one would assume that's what we were doing, but assuming always gets us in trouble.
The PO system's never
But
been used.
the purchase orders, you don't have those because they're just come up with a Amazon bill. Is that
Correct.
how it's working?
Yeah,
So that's not any way to run a,
no.
And we don't know if cat toys or dog toys are a legitimate expense for Festival of Trees or if somebody's taking them home with them.
Right, that's, and yeah, there's just a lot of different,
maybe somebody was decorating a tree.
Well, it did happen. It did happen that they were decorating a tree, but you can't.
It sounds funny, but.
Yep.
like you said,
Yes,
it
but you cannot, I mean, when you see the bill, you're relying on somebody telling you, yeah, I decorated a tree, but we don't know that. And that's not a usual expense for city. And so, the PO is, I think, is very important. We used to have POs. I mean, Jim, when did we quit the PO system?
I recall we used them.
Yeah.
I don't
George.
remember when it was gone. I'm sorry.
Was it during one of the finance meetings? I can't remember who it was with. But we started asking about POs.
Yeah.
Was that during a finance meeting or?
There's an actual PO module within our accounting system to account for all of our POs.
Mm-hmm.
And you can attach it to the actual balance of your budget so that if say Cameron was, when somebody goes to spend money, it automatically emails him and he has to authorize it. And it will give him a line item that says, this is how much you have left in this budget.
Mm,
And at one time, it wasn't so many years ago, that PO system, or there was, I mean, that was a big push from a finance director at one time to make sure there's more accountability and keeping things clear. When and why that began to change, I don't know. And that may have been a conversation that council had, but I don't recall it.
It seems like also, excuse me for.
Go ahead.
It seems also in the last 4 or 5 years too, there was a move towards a more constructed cost allocation.
Yeah.
So that at least that portion of it was in play. But I think there's just been some,
Turnover and it's just kind of got
Turnover
lost in the
and-
mix. Yeah.
you do all that turnover and the institutional knowledge goes down the toilet,
Mhm.
falls into storm drain, and nobody ever sees it again. So this is, kind of building it up from the building blocks up is what we've got to do.
Jackie, you want to put the next slide up? And this one might make these guys next to me nervous, but.
No, they look nervous.
So on the next slide, if you pay attention to the very last paragraph, it says anyone knowingly making expenditures in excess of a budget appropriation shall be guilty of a misdemeanor and shall be fined not more than $500 for each separate violation. So
Thank
you're held accountable by law to make sure you are staying within your budget. My job as the finance director is to provide monthly the team their budget so they know where they're standing. They also should be trained to be able to look at their own budget. It should all be transparent and accessible,
Mhm.
and having the accountability is everyone on this platform here.
Therein lies the secret. And Jim, you and I have talked about this, about instead of you guys just doing your reports every council meeting, at least once a quarter, tell us where you are in the budget. Tell us what you understand about your budget, where your budget is. So that, because you weren't getting your budgets, and that's not fair to you guys. It's not fair to department heads not to have your budgets. So my thought is, I want to know where you guys are on your budget. I love Monica, but I want to know that our department heads are in on this and doing their jobs and responsible for their budgets and having their budget so that they have that freedom to run their departments.
And also it will be be part of the monthly reports to the
Right.
council, because the council should absolutely be getting a budget report saying where our standings are every single month.
But I love the budget report for you.
Councilor Hancock, other people want to talk as well, so Deputy Mayor's had his hand up for a little while as
Okay,
well, so.
that's fine.
You just said that you give the department heads on a monthly basis their budget.
They should be getting it every month.
Weren't we told that they were able to see it, like if they
Mhm.
wanted to on a daily basis?
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
guys,
They can.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure, but as the finance director, you're supposed to be having budget meetings with your
yeah, of course.
staff every month so that they know they're being held accountable.
No, I just want to make sure that department heads can and are able to go on the computer and see, okay, this is where my budget's at.
If they've been shown where it's at, yeah. And also if the budget was input correctly.
Mhm.
Because if it's been input at a 0, then, or they only have one line item, they're kind of just guessing like, what do I do? Because I don't have a line item for the things that I'm supposed to be getting. Like medical supplies. If there is no line item for medical supplies for the ambulance, everything is going into office and
Mhm.
office supplies, then
Okay.
he
And Chief,
doesn't.
you were
know.
going to say something?
No, I was just gonna speak on Counselor Hancock's comment. There was a pretty extensive period of time we did not have access.
Right.
Providing that accountability for us is actually a stress saver, as flying blind the budget is. Fairly scary.
Mhm.
Right, and going forward, I've had, everybody who's been in your position has said that we want to make sure that our department heads know where their budget is, and so that's always been a goal, and I've emphasized that to my other council members have emphasized to them, because that's important to all of us, I believe. that our department heads know where they are in their budget, what their budget is, and the line items you were talking about. So moving forward, we definitely want to make sure that that happens going into next year so that our people are not flying blind and they know what they're able to do. So
They
that's,
don't get a misdemeanor.
and they don't get a misdemeanor for goofing it up. That's right. Even unintentionally, right?
Comes out of your budget.
Comes out of your budget.
Chief Layman would like to say.
Just a
Hey,
point of
Chief.
clarification real quick. In our weekly report, the first one of the month, would you like that included there or would you like it here would you like all of us to report at a council meeting? I don't know how long that would take. I mean, that's up to you. I'm just asking you.
That's up to council, but I would really like one meeting a quarter for you guys to really explain your budget and know your budget and tell us where you're at on your budget.
Could that be like something, like a work study? Where we could have that kind of.
Well, I think instead
that
of,
report?
yeah, of course it could be, however we see it. But I think that at least once a quarter that we get in depth with them, they tell us, okay, this is where I've adjusted the budget, this is what I'm doing, this is where we are on budget, we're at 50%, we're at, I think that it would be really important because that's how we grow our leaders.
And it wasn't too long ago that we were getting quarterly reports from our finance director. And that disappeared last year and we didn't really get it rolling again this year. And so that's something that I think that we've all individually expressed a desire to see again. And I think, like Chief said, that is something that the law requires.
I
But
will say one thing, not every person has access to their budget. So they have to get permission to be able to see those reports. And for instance, I know that Cameron doesn't have permission to even look at his reports.
What?
If he's not given permission, then he cannot access his budget.
Who gives them the permission?
Yeah.
that's the question I had.
My seat or his seat can do it. And so
Excuse me?
either I can or IT can.
Bet.
I usually make the IT department do that part because they're much better at
It's a
it.
simple thing is setting up a program where.
Right. The person prior to me, and I don't know if it was,
How far back?
yeah, that they didn't allow him permissions to get those reports.
And if I may,
Use yeah, thank you.
I had requested multiple times with the past two previous finance directors.
I think your button's not pushed there.
It's, I say, great.
Okay.
I'll speak deeper.
There you go. I like that. Yep. Yeah.
Use your radio voice.
Just, so Monica is correct, and I will say that the past two finance directors, I did reach out on multiple occasions and it did not come to fruition. So I was relying on requesting reports from them to conduct my business.
So then can council ask that the city manager ask his employees to grant you access to your budget?
I
I
believe
think-
you have that power.
I think all department heads should be able to access their budget because they're responsible for it.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor?
Am I the only one that remembers the previous finance director telling us that everybody had access?
Yes,
Yes,
you're
they
right.
did.
you're
You are not
right.
wrong.
That was not
Did
the
you
case.
express any, I guess, concerns to the city manager?
There was open dialogue, yes.
Was this an executive session?
I don't believe so.
Huh.
So Jim, how do you feel about all this?
Well, I'm mostly for, your budget's gonna tell you everything, right? And if you track your budgets, when I was here for 10 years as public works director, you could, like, at any year you wanted to, I had it. And you could see the trend lines going everywhere and it makes, I think once we get the budget going the way Monica has envisioned it to going and the chiefs see how this works, next year's budget will go a lot smoother because the year out will go, because you can start seeing your trends and your budget projections and see where your money's going, where you actually need to budget versus what you've been budgeting in the past. Budgeting it's a fantastic tool for your department. And then I will say that, it's disheartening when I first got here and was, seeing the street department trying to come up and find out where the money is for the white paint. No one knew where, they didn't know what they had for a budget. And they were being told, you can't talk to me. And, I'm trying to, not talk to me, but talk to the finance. But they're trying to find out where their materials are at. You know, there's supposed to be a budget for these things. And that's, you know, this is the public gives us this money to do our jobs. And if we, you know, our line staff have to go through some, you know, Mickey Mouse, process to find a dollar so they can do their jobs, well, that's just wasting money, right? And we should be getting our jobs done. Get out of the way. Here's your budget. Go spend it. When you reach the end of it, that's your problem, not mine. I mean, I don't mean to be flippant about it, but really, you know, you take my street department, those guys, they know how much money they spend every year, and they know where it's got to go. And, you know, here's your budget, go spend it wisely and get your jobs done. And that's what we expected, and that's what the public expects. And the same thing, you know, with the two chiefs here. Here's your budgets, spend it wisely.
And if they do so, they get rewarded.
Get you all a nice candy cane for Christmas.
I was gonna say, what's the reward?
Okay, so,
That their
Moving on.
jobs.
yes, let's carry on.
So, what I'm finding right now is there needs not only accountability, but there needs to be a lot of training. When I came into the finance department, it was a little shocking. I'm going to be honest. It was really shocking. Everybody had access to the vault. Everybody had their own. You can ask I call him my best friend, Jafet. I need this guy more than, you know, I'm always pulling him in my office. Help me. A lot of people had access to the vault. Everybody had their own key to their own till, to the cash.
Mm.
Everybody was just in and out and doing their own thing. It was the mail. They had been told to open up every piece of mail and stamp it and then send it to wherever it goes. And there was a lot of training that had to get done like right away to kind of keep some of those controls in place and give them the backup of why things are done. I'm going to say the same thing that was said last year. The finance team's amazing. They're doing a great job. They're doing the job that they were told to do, not knowing why they're doing it.
Mm.
So they haven't been given the tools to look at some of these accounts and reconcile and say, oh, are we losing money here because they're not, you know, sustaining themselves. They've never been shown how to make sure the courts are actually getting billed correctly. They're just told, here, follow these instructions, and not given the background of why. So it's very important, if I were to leave tomorrow, for that team to know why they're doing the things they're doing. They're the ones who live in and thrive in this community, and they want to be here. And so it's important to give that finance team good structure and to be able to move them forward. Another thing that they need, that the city needs, is there's a lot of IT items on the table that we're going to kind of bring forward. Document control is a huge one. When we're getting open records requests and we can't fulfill them because we just can't find the document, that's unacceptable. It's costing the city a lot of money. A document control program, you scan every single document and AI will find it in a heartbeat. And when I say every single, it will literally take us from having paper to being digital. And it's a much easier process, and it's a much cleaner process, and records requests are done in a matter of
Minutes.
hours instead of days. There's things that I'm sure that Jafet has brought up with our email and going, you know, bringing up some of our stuff as far as IT goes. That is kind of a necessity at this point. It's not a want. It's we kind of need to do it. It's been recommended through an audit. So some of these audit things that we were kind of called off on, we need to meet those standards. It's kind of a tough saying, but it's kind of a true saying, is to make money, you got to spend money. And that's kind of where we're at. We're at a point now where if we're going to progress and get a little more modernized, then right now is the time to do it, when we're trying to change the system so that it will improve in the long run and keep going, and not keep trying to upgrade this practice and this practice and this practice and file these papers. And it really needs to be upgraded. A lot of things are needing some upgrades.
AI always, right now it's very exciting and, we're hiring bodies to come in, but if we can use AI and cut back on the bodies, I mean, not that I want any employees that are here right now to go, but, in the future, helping Jackie out with AI, that's a very good cost
We
saving.
actually have an AI program that if you put your credit card information in there, say your credit card bill, that it actually does a scan and looks for a certain curve. And if it finds that curve, then it knows that there's actually fraud within that system.
Mhm.
And so it's pretty amazing. It's very accurate and it's really interesting. It's a little scary, but
Yes,
it's
it is.
interesting. And so there's some really neat programs out there. That's not one that we absolutely need right now. Maybe in the future, that would be a fun one to have. But some of these programs that we're gonna need are a necessity.
Mhm.
Okay.
So being proactive, coming up with ways to help fund some of these projects and these non-essential needs. An idea that was thrown out there was kind of maybe contracting with a grant specialist and having a grant specialist come in. If you contract with a grant specialist, usually some of them are on hourly, but a lot of them don't do hourly. They do it per project. And so if you're awarded a grant per project, their cost usually is put into that grant. Yeah.
Yeah, we did have, over the course of 2023, we had an opening for a grant writer specialist and the applications were underwhelming.
Oh,
So didn't get a lot of real good response on that job opening. And
okay.
we were ready to hire a full-time person for that. Now, we might be doing better if we find somebody who just does that for different organizations. I don't know. But it certainly was discouraging over the course of 2023 when we had this opening available and really no one worth considering actually came forward. So,
Well, I can tell you that with nonprofits kind of being people moving out of the nonprofit sector, right now is the time to snatch one.
there's one available. I'd love to see them.
We have a percent fee, for what they bring into us, the percentage fee. I know in the past we had Sue Jetter that did a lot of work for us. And I think there's people out there that we can find. I'm really interested in the Boys and Girls Club for the community center. That's a partnership I can see happening that will save the city money. We get people in the community involved, and I think there's a desire to do that. Get the people in the community involved, request donations and ongoing donations because the community center is a wonderful place for them and they have expressed interest in that. And I think that's a wonderful partnership for that.
And also getting business sponsored
Mhm.
for some of the events, some of these events that we hold that we had been discussing last night with some of the city events that we want to keep going. You can get business sponsors to help sponsor some of these events. And these are just ideas.
Question.
Hey, Ms. Rouse.
So requesting donations for events. So I remember, I don't know if it was earlier this year or last year, we were talking about donations, cash donations. And I think it was Debbie Zabel, she was still here. She said that we didn't have a policy around cash.
Correct. There's a lot
Has
of
that changed?
policies that do not, there's no policies for a lot of financial things.
Mhm.
That was on my list of things is that we have a lot of financial policies that are not in place
Mhm.
that I'll be bringing forward. I'll probably overwhelm you with some of these policies.
Mhm.
Sorry, but they're much needed because they kind of help keep people accountable. And also it kind of gives you guys the say on like how these things are held. So it's important to get a lot of these policies in place, but absolutely, all these things can be done and it's very easy to have some of these policies enacted. I always recommend don't recreate the wheel, steal it from somebody else. And MRC has great policies on there that you can look up and kind of conform it to how the city wants it.
And for some of these things, not all of them, obviously, but for some of the things, the reason the policy doesn't exist is because it's not something we've ever done with the city.
Yeah.
We haven't asked businesses to donate for you know, in a partnership or something like, we haven't done it before. So we don't have a policy around that because we never thought about it. And other things that we've done it, times have changed. And so now we're required to have a policy where we didn't have to. And so these policies, yes, are definitely necessary and we probably should have been done maybe 5 or 10 years ago. But some of the stuff is just, the city hasn't reached that point where we've needed it yet, so we didn't even know we needed it. So, yeah, I welcome the opportunity to see some of those new policies and maybe get things lined up so that we're doing better in the future. Counselor Hancock.
Yeah, and I will say, except that in the last year, since I've been on council for the last however many months, I was approached by someone who wanted to give money towards the pool, towards recreation for children. And I came forward with it and nothing happened. And I really applaud you. I want to bring that forward because this was a retired person that was a former mayor of the city of Sunnyside, wanted to give money back to the city of Sunnyside and support youth activities. We had no policy and no policy was brought forth. So, you know, the sooner we can do that, if there's money out there, these people are wanting to donate, why are we not accommodating it? So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry.
It seems like though that's kind of an if and an if. Because when a couple of years ago, and I think it was the year of the dog toys for the Christmas tree, it was the year that part of the money that we were going 50-50 with the hospital for a function that we have here in town, just telling you because everybody here knows about it, but a festival of trees. And part of that was designers would come in and they designed the Christmas trees, big gala event. City was partnering with the hospital. We were going to take the money that we received from the festival of trees. And we were putting that into a fund for the dog shelter. And we had a QR code and a place where it was going to go. Now, right after that, the person the city manager at that time who was establishing that, she was let go. So that project probably went somewhere and it was probably about, I don't know if it was 10,000 or however much it was, somewhere under $10,000 was collected. And people were still trying to donate to that fund, but you're saying there wasn't any place for it to go.
The auditors will have a heyday with that one.
What?
Well, the auditors have looked at that one and
They
I
did,
think,
and they passed it. They approved
yeah,
it.
they found it. It's just that it was, yeah,
They did
it was a
find the
place where
money
it's
and
supposed to be.
Okay. It turned out okay, is what I'm saying. So everything that was bought was accounted for and so on and so forth. But that was one of the first times we had working on trying to bring in money that way. And it was for a particular purpose.
Specific cause, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is,
same with the revolving loans for
mhm.
the community economic development. There should be a place where that money is all going back into. I know they're making their payments. We had a meeting today about that,
Mhm.
talking about the amount the payments are coming in. They're all up to date. Where are they being put into community development so that at some point we can turn around and do more loans going out again? Because that was the desire of the Community Development Commission. So just when you're talking about having these particular programs where that money's going to go, I'm very, very excited to see, make sure that they get to the right barcode wherever that's at. And
Yeah.
because where that, what we did, we had, Chief, do you remember at all how much money that was? I want to say it was $10,000, but I could be way off on that amount.
It was roughly 10. I don't know. It was just over or just under. I'm not sure. It's for some reason 11,006 in my mind.
Yeah, something along those lines. But right after that, we had a change in city managers. So there was, again, with the turnover we've had in the last 3 years, it's been a big piece of the problem here.
Yeah, I agree. And then also just record keeping. I think there's a lot of record keeping that maybe wasn't great.
Yeah. Well, it didn't go in the right place.
And so, yeah, there's just a lot of times when I'm looking at things, there's no background. I think I mentioned to Jim that I've had the last year of council members meetings playing in my car as I'm driving to and from home. And so
Why-
I've been caught up on a lot of meetings with you guys. That's how I know it happened last year. And so I've
Would
just
you
been
subject
listening on
yourself to
repeat of all your guys' meetings.
I appreciate you take that initiative to
Because
do that.
it's kind of helping me get a little bit of history so that I know what's been done.
Yep.
And so that's again kind of where I was out of being proactive and trying to like, where are we at and where do we want to go? And I guess at this point, we just got to stop looking in the rearview mirror and start looking forward and saying, okay, hold me accountable because I'm the one saying it. And so absolutely check in and I'm going to tell you every single time we meet where we're at and what my goals are. And I have a great team here that's helping me. So we're hoping that, we all have the same hope to get this moving. And we just, you guys.
Yes, you may.
And it has to do with your weekly report.
Yeah.
Because the first part of that was all really cool because I knew you're working on budget and all this cost allocation and all that good stuff. And then I read down here, human resources, you're working on human resources,
So the,
and then also you're talking about information technology and work projects. And I'm like going, when does she have time to do those other two projects? Because that's a full-time person for the human resources, full-time person for the IT stuff. Definitely time and a half on the finance director stuff. I just don't want you to spread yourself so thin is what, and
yeah.
of course, that's directed to you, sir.
You read my mind because I worry about it as well. I'm worried that she's going to burn herself out because you don't see the emails I get on the weekends. So, yeah, it's
Taking next week,
concerning.
I'm taking next weekend off.
She is. It's
Good job.
going to be a birthday. I won't tell which one it is. It's a special
30.
birthday. Yeah. So she is going to take it, but and I'm with that way with all my staff is make sure they're not burning themselves out. So everything.
That, when I read that, I want to say, Jim, what are you doing to this woman?
So IT
There's-
and HR fall under me.
25,
And so.
26,
Get out of her way.
Mm.
Get run over.
I think we better kind of pull back on that a little bit. We can budget for those things so you don't have, so you focus, you know what I mean? That's where the focus is.
So please read our concern for you and your health. Overworking is not good for you either, so make sure you
No.
take some time off. And I've said that about and to our city clerk as well. We've got some extremely dedicated staff who put an amazing amount of hours in, but your mental health and your well-being is important for us too. We like having you here. You do a good job, but please make sure you take care of yourself. Take some time, step away once in a while.
And I think that goes for every employee that we have in this room right now.
I think you're right, Counselor.
Yes, I think I know, I asked Jafet's group today, I said, how did Jafet do this before he got you two? And they said 12 hours a day. And so, and I know the chiefs are, I don't even want to go there. So I appreciate all you do.
All right.
So at that, it's concluding this slide. So the last portion of this, you're going to kind of see where I'm at in the proposed budget. Your guys' copy has like some color coordinations, just so you can see where the ins and outs are going.
The very last page.
Don't have it.
We don't have color
Last
coordination.
page says thank you.
Oh,
No, there's a budget summary.
I got that. one.
Yeah.
My last page is thank you.
Oh, well, we got a budget summary. You
Budget.
got left out there, Dean.
Oh, yes.
But I do see that the beginning balance for the general fund,
Manager's got two, so there we are.
I gave yours to him.
All right, carry on.
but I'm concerned about the general fund going from 2.7 million to 223,000. Beginning balance and ending balance?
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Or beginning balance is 2.7 and
Okay.
Transfer.
ending balance? Are you
1.6
just
million.
going backwards? Should this is the ending
Yes, and
balance?
so that's our balance going to be
And
left at
it's
the end
part
of the year.
this 2 point.
Okay.
No.
Well, then
No,
I'm
that
confused.
at the beginning of 2026 is what the beginning balance would be.
For two-
And then you'll have your revenues and your expenses throughout the year. The transfer in and out is just transferring from one fund account to the other fund account. That's what those transfer in and out. And at the end of year, that's what our ending balance would be in those accounts.
Okay, okay, now I got you. Okay, now I got it. So the total budget for next year for 2026 is to 50.
So that would reconcile the beginning and ending balances is the 50. So the revenues are projected at about 33 million and the expenses were at 34 million. So that's, I think, kind of what they had been explaining last year is that the expenses are getting higher than the revenue coming in. And I think that's why we need to take a second look at some of these enterprise funds and then some of these ILAs that we have right now and maybe assess where we can start negotiating some of these. There's some rate studies being done. I know we have a jail rate study being done. There's also a EMS rate study being done. So that way we can try and recoup some of the costs of these as well.
One of the things, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Julia.
So basically, from going by the figures that was on the 25, we're not really raising the amount of money for the next year. Total budget is only about $200,000 difference, or maybe a little closer to 3.
Yeah, it's very similar. We're pretty much getting apples for apples is the same budget as last year. Last year, when you look at the revenue budget and the expense budget, it's that $50,000 mark because you have a beginning balance that kind of carries over and you want that to kind of carry you into your first quarter. And then you have your actual revenues that are coming in and your expenses as you're spending them throughout the year. And then you have an ending balance and you want that ending balance again to kind of carry you into that next year. And so, I would like to see our ending balance be a little healthier so that when we're going into next year, the goal would be any kind of revenue that a certain percentage over in certain funds, not all, we would then reallocate to a capital expense because I think there's a lot of capital needs that are going to be coming up. For instance, by 2030, we're going to be needing another ambulance or a fire truck engine. And so,
We have wells that we're trying to build, talked about that last night.
Yep.
yeah, so there's quite and an engine is $1 million. So these are things.
I was gonna say.
Could be twice that amount.
And so these are things that having that capital budget plan is something that really needs to be established so that we know what we're looking for.
And going into first quarter,
Excuse me.
yeah, you've been
Counselor-
talking.
Counselor Hart has the floor, so.
I was
Okay.
just gonna say that a couple of years ago, when maybe it was while I was mayor or while Francisco was mayor, we talked about having that ending balance for going into the next year to be something in the neighborhood of 60%.
Something like that. Yeah, we did talk quite a bit about that.
Because we realized then that we needed to have a substantial amount of money to carry us over till the revenue started coming in,
Right.
which was usually March and April.
Mhm.
And that's where that one slide came in, where it kind of gives you a breakdown of like that 45 days for your enterprise funds. But then you're going to want to have a little bigger surplus for your general fund because your general fund isn't like the revenues only come in on quarters and then you get your like you'll have pockets of spikes, like property taxes are only due twice a year. So when your property taxes come in, you're going to see April and October's, go up, but then you have to carry yourself to get to there.
And that was what we had established.
Yep, that was all part of that discussion.
was part of that discussion.
Never mind.
Established those-
Never mind. Never mind.
Okay.
Go ahead.
That was,
Okay.
that was where we were at with that.
No, I very much remember those discussions and they were very,
Yeah,
I mean,
very solid.
very solid discussions. So, okay. Carry.
This is good.
Further comment?
Go.
Okay, carry on.
All right. Well, at that point, I'm just gonna ask if you guys have any other questions. That was the big meat of it for me tonight.
Okay, questions?
Nope, appreciate what you've done, Monica, and I appreciate the candidness.
Thank you for the breakdown. It's
Yeah.
really helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do appreciate your explaining the whys, the wherefores, and in trying to understand how we got to where we are. I know we have gone through a period of chaos, and none of us has enjoyed that. I think council has expressed dismay over that in many different ways over the last couple of years. And so we understand your frustrations in some of these areas, and we'd like to see that resolved. And it seems like you're making good progress on that. And knowing that all of these numbers that you're projecting are not the final numbers, but I think we're going to be within the range. Looking forward to seeing the final version of that and how we go from there. So appreciate that report.
Just if I could.
Go ahead, Ms. Hart.
One last thing on your, the business here on this one that's dated for today. So when I'm looking here at the 50,000 or 50 million or whatever that is, but after a certain period of time in the evening, they all just start to look alike. But we're in the received accounts, which is right next there, we received 45.59% of our revenue.
That is that's how much we have left
Oh,
to
that's what we
receive.
have left.
Yes,
Okay,
that's what we have
so
left.
Expenditures wise, we're at 48.
Yep.
Okay, so that's not terrible, is it?
No, it's not. Right now,
Would you
right
expect
now,
us
if
to
you
be
look at
there?
it, our revenue is higher than our expenses then that's what we want. And so, it's just kind of, keeping those things accountable of where we're at. And, I know we have some, debt costs that are going to be coming in. So you're going to see some of those debt costs hit us and some of them are, large. There's about 3.3 million, was it about 3.3 million in debt, every year that's getting paid out.
So that's why-
And Jim, can
that's
you
why-
elaborate on where our debt is going to be?
So I think I understand the question. So one of the things to keep in mind is when we purchased the Monson property, it was originally purchased with cash funds out of all the reserve accounts. But the city did eventually take out bonds to pay for that. So it was a $2.7 million purchase price. And the bonds are going to end up costing us $14 million in bond costs is what we've paid for that $2.7 million purchase. That bond matures in 2027. So that's about almost $700,000 that'll come back to the general fund in 2027 in that bond cost. Likewise, with the sewer bond for the wastewater treatment plant, which was constructed in 2007, that bond matures in 2027. That's almost $700,000 that we pay out of the sewer fund every year. So we get through 2026. 2027 is going to be a little bit rosier because we've got money freed up that's coming back to us. So you'll start seeing, so if we do start talking rate increases, they can be offset somewhat by what's going to be coming off the bond cost in 2027. So.
Or there may be massive capital expenses that we have.
Right. So I think for instance, the gentleman that talked last night, Mr. Scott from HLA, for that $11.5 million in sewer projects, they estimated that it was going to be almost a $600,000 annual payment. Well, you've got that sitting in the bank in 2027 when that bond expires, right? So you'll have money to pay that type of, if the city was to, get those type of grants and loans and have to pay that $600,000 back every year, you have some money sitting there for that to pay that cost. So.
Well, all is not lost.
Right. So look forward to the future.
All right. Item 2. Just kidding. Sorry. As you went.
You're just being running.
Well, because you did your report all as one unit, right? So I've got item
went through all-
B, C, D on here. It's like, okay. So,
I didn't let you hit those points. I'm sorry. If you want to start over.
no, that's fine. Once you were rolling, I wanted you to keep rolling because you had a lot of questions coming your way and there was a lot of back and forth on that. And it was all good discussion. So I appreciate everybody's comments, everybody's input on that. Hopefully we got all of our questions answered. If there's still questions, please, now is the time to do it. All right. Hearing none and without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening, everybody.